Hi there. This is a video for my book report and for a review of my medicine cabinet. So we had to read the book Slow Death by Rubber Duck, and I have to tell you it was a hard read for me. I found it a little bit disheartening that we keep making these chemicals that go into the earth without checking to see if they're safe first. And while, the authors were like, there's hope for the future, I agree, but some of these chemicals that we have put into the environment have long lasting and far reaching effects. And I just wish we could just stop. I wish money didn't matter and that we could just figure it out before we move forward. But anyway, the 5 toxins that I've elected to cover, the first one is bisphenol A, BPA, that we find in like plastics, so like water bottles, baby bottles, the lining of canned food, like soups and canned meats. The problem with it is it's an endocrine disruptor, and as that impacts, because it's a hormonal impact, it is a cancer risk, it is a reproductive issue risk, as well as a developmental problem because of the way that hormones rule our bodily functions. The thing we could do is look for BPA alternatives. Glass. I use stainless steel for my travel mugs. The next one is phthalates. So phthalates, you can find them in fragrances. It softens plastics, so like vinyl, tiles, that kind of stuff. The kitchen, flooring, that kind of thing. It also, you can find it in personal care items as a fragrance extender, some toys. Unfortunately, it's not totally banned yet, although it is quite reduced. So again, it's an endocrine disruptor, reproductive issues, developmental problems. So we could choose PVC-free items as well as fragrance-free to kind of try to get around that. Triclosan is next, and it was originally used in hospitals as an antibacterial disinfectant, and it still is used actually, but we started using it in hand soaps and hand sanitizers. The problem with that is, again, they all seem to be endocrine disruptors, right? Isn't that scary? But it's an endocrine disruptor. It also creates a problem with resistance, so antibiotic resistant bacteria. So eventually they get used to it, they become superbugs, and then we have an even bigger problem on our hands. So the use is now restricted, and quite frankly, the takeaway from the book was wash with plain old soap and water, just really well. Make sure you're scrubbing properly in all the areas you need to. We should be fine. Polybrominated diphenyl ethers, so I get them mixed up. PBDEs are the next one, and they're the flame retardant. So like in furniture, and I know I'm pointing to my furniture, but TVs, our electronics, that's where you would find it. And unfortunately, they last a long time and accumulate in the body. Another endocrine disruptor. So developmental issues, neurological issues, reproductive issues. And so it's really hard to kind of get around this, right? You can't go to a TV and say, oh, it is or isn't here, although the packaging sometimes helps. But IKEA is actually, just a fun fact as I was researching this, IKEA is working really hard to exclude that from the furniture. So if you can manage to walk around a busy IKEA store, you might find something there that is PBDE free. And the last one I want to go over before I switch topics are the perfluorinated compounds, so the PFCs. And basically those are the things that, like Teflon, so big things like non-sticky cookware, and you can find it in like food packaging, in textiles. The problem again is that they accumulate in the atmosphere, in the body, in like soil, and they last for a very long time. Very hard to break down, forever chemicals. And again, immune problems, cancer. So basically, your alternatives would be ceramic cookware, maybe a cast iron pan. I've tried. I haven't gotten my seasoning right yet, but the book certainly prodded me to move in that direction. So those were my 5 chemicals. And part of our assignment today was to look at our medicine cabinet. So I'm just going to switch here to some pictures. So here are some creams that I use. I use Skin Essence, which I actually got from one of our clinical weekends. Somebody had suggested it, and I really like it. I use it more for skin rashes. So after my second COVID vaccination, I ended up with a really, really bad rash on my arms and my legs. And when I'm stressed, I find it starts to break out, and this will help clear it right away. I don't really use these as much anymore. I've had them for a couple of years. They're almost done. So my other picture is my my kitchen or my bathroom counter to the left of my sink. This is really what it looks like. So I'll be covering my makeup, my skin cream, my hair, and deodorant. And this is actually skin cream that I made out of coconut oil, some frankincense, and lavender in it because I like putting it, oiling my skin before I go to bed when it's winter because it gets especially dry. So just to kind of cover this, what I did was I went and I did my research, and then I just included the ingredients here. So the main thing I use overnight on my face is doTERRA Skin Serum. I'm a big doTERRA fan because of the quality of their products. But when I look at the ingredients here, it's jojoba oil, macadamia, boswellia, wood oils, essential oils basically. So I'm quite comfortable putting that on my face. If I put makeup on, I like using a combo lip and cheek blush, so I only have to have one thing. And the Milk makeup on the Skin Deep database was at a 2. So I mean, not 100%, but when I look at the ingredients, not too bad, although again we have the parfum or the fragrance, right? Unidentified stuff in there, we don't know, but I would suspect, probably at the very least, an allergy trigger somehow in there. But there are the ingredients, pretty straightforward. I like using them, but I may not use it as much now that I've looked at, though the first ingredients are pretty good. Sea moss, passion fruit, acai, rice bran oil, aloe vera. But then we get into some other stuff down here that I would probably be happy to do without. I use it because I have very curly hair, and it just enhances my curls nicely and keeps them from drying out. But I think I might just use coconut oil in the future. I have done that, so I may just do that again. Here's the Skin Organics E-Cream that I got from our weekend. And again, really good certifications here. And, calendula flower, beeswax, chickweed, rosehip, peppermint oil, nothing in there you can't pronounce, so I'd happily put it onto my skin. Lush toothpaste tabs, again, natural ingredients and safe synthetics, but who's to say how safe a synthetic is? So I just put the ingredients there. The same for the Lush Super Milk. With the Lush Super Milk though, I really did like that the first 4 ingredients are water, almond milk, coconut milk, and oat milk. I mean, that's pretty great. And then it has, some other ingredients. But what I had to look up was Tonka Absolute. I did not know that there was Tonka bean oil. So this was a really good exercise. And again, I will probably be changing from the toothpaste and the super milk, as well as this next product. So when I'm home, I tend to use the Greach powdered deodorant. I love the smell of it. When I go out, I tend to use something else that's a little bit stronger, because when I work out, I just find some of the natural stuff doesn't work. And I've tried to make a deodorant for myself with baking soda, and all I got was abraded skin under my arms. I put too much baking soda. So, but this, the ingredients in here are pretty good. I don't know what magnesium trisilicate is. I should have looked that one up. I'm just looking at it now though. But again, parfum, fragrance. Is that a safe synthetic? Probably. Who can say, because I don't know what's in there. And actually, the next thing that I'm going to show you, or one of the things I'm going to show you, I was really impressed with, and it does come back to parfum, but I'll get to that. So when I clean my face, I use usually the Rocky Mountain Soap Transformative Cleansing Oil. I really like it. And again, I don't know if you can eat it, but the ingredients are pretty good in there. Sunflower, jojoba, rose canina, arnica, calendula, sandalwood, palmarosa, chamomile, all pretty straightforward, and again, some good certifications in there. So The other thing I use is Old Spice deodorant. It's aluminum free, and I tend to use that out of the house. I don't like a whole lot of fragrance, especially if it's floral. So this was, men's deodorant, but I like the smell of it. And sometimes I have to admit it, I use Jergens Original. So it smells like cherry almond, and my mom used to put it on us as kids when we were small, and just the fragrance reminds me of that. So I usually use olive or coconut oil with frankincense, lavender, and whatever else I feel I need to add. I just kind of look at my essential oils and get a feel for it. And then for first aid, I use polysporin or a salve that I make with stuff out of my yard. So calendula plantain, comfrey, olive oil, beeswax, and essential oils of lavender, tea tree, and peppermint. It's extremely effective, and my neighbors have some because I do a lot of wound care, so I usually give them some when I'm taking care of them. So that is basically what I use. But I'm just going to switch over here, and I wanted to talk about the Old Spice. So this, I was really impressed because Old Spice had a smart label when you were looking at their site, and it brought me here. And it has the ingredients, health and safety, usage and handling about this, company brand, sustainability. But when you look at the ingredient list, it actually tells you a little bit about it, what it does. And each one of these kind of has a 1 or 2 line description. But when you come down to fragrance, I noticed that it actually had some ingredients listed here, and you can see them. And if you actually click on it, then you get kind of what the description is. It doesn't talk about the safety, but it is kind of cool to be able to go through the list. But I do admit, after I kind of came down this a little bit, I'm like, okay, I'm going to retry the make your own deodorant experiment. Or I found a couple of options. So I'm going to start with lip and cheek tint. So Canadian company, elbows up, and it also comes in a paper container, so low footprint, recyclable. And when I looked at the ingredients, if you look here, it says moringa, jojoba, carnauba wax. I don't know if I pronounced that properly. Candelia. Basically, things that you can read and use and are fairly healthy on the skin. My favorite, one of my favorites, is the Rocky Mountain Soap Company. I go there every time I go to Canmore, so I will be back in that store in September. And I love their stuff. So their face cream, I like the way they list their ingredients as well. So if you notice, water, pomegranate, glycerin, coconut oil, shea butter, olive oil, jojoba, and then it comes down into here and it has like oils as well as vitamin E. So again, a longer list, but relatively straightforward ingredients. And then the last thing I want to cover is a company, Canadian company again, just down the road from where we live. And I just found them, so I'm pretty excited about it. And I was thinking of trying their deodorant. So if you look at the container here up on the screen, it's called Green Beaver. Their certifications look pretty good: cruelty-free, biodegradable, vegan, gluten-free, 100% recyclable. But when you come down, I really like their descriptions. So as I look down, it has the benefits, of course, but it also includes a list of what it doesn't include. So aluminum, toxins, parabens, triclosan, phthalates, all of that kind of stuff. And then at the bottom, it has the ingredients. So pretty straightforward there. But the other thing I was looking at was the Naturopeutic toothpaste. So instead of the Lush tooth tabs, which are better than Colgate, but I was looking at this one. So just the Enamel Protect toothpaste. Again, the same certifications, but when we come down, they tell you the benefits, what it doesn't include: fluoride, sodium lauryl sulfate, PEG, artificial colors, microplastics, and it just tells you what the ingredients are. So xylitol, calcium hydroxyapatite. I know I mangled that. But again, grapefruit seed extract, xanthan gum, peppermint, silica, tea tree, all things that you could pronounce. So those are some of the products that I use. Actually, those are all the products mostly that I use at home on a fairly regular basis, plus 3 alternatives. I have gone over some of the ingredients and given a review of the chemicals and kind of a quick synopsis of how I felt about Slow Death by Rubber Duck. A little disheartening, but hopefully we can do better from here on in. And I certainly plan to educate my clients. In this climate, I'm also going to support Canadian at this time. So the research to find out alternatives was extremely useful. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you got something out of it, maybe 3 new suppliers. So thank you and have an amazing rest of your day.